Zerofuku, the god who let themselves be defined by luck and as such denied themselves from grasping hold of happiness with their own hands. He may be disliked by most of the fandom, but I think he's pretty neat, and so that's what I'm going to attempt to convince you of today. So if you find yourself entertained at any point during the video, then consider liking, subscribing and ringing that bell. Anyway, on with the video. Now before we even meet Zerofuku, we first introduced to Bishamante and the other lucky gods, their heavenly executioners. They take it upon themselves to act as judge, jury and executioner, this shown in story when they decide Buddha is a traitor to the heavens and decide to enact justice on him. This obviously setting up their eventual fight with Buddha, since they are trying to impose justice on him, and Buddha, well, he is someone who isn't moved by anyone but himself. No god can impose anything onto him. And as such, in round 6, the lucky gods descend, ready to prove him wrong and enact justice upon him. But as the match probably commences, we get the reveal that the 7 lucky gods aren't 7 gods at all. They are one, the god known as Zerofuku, a being dictated by luck, a god who embodies the very concept. This of course being his biggest flaw, as we will see in a minute. In short, Zerofuku equates luck to happiness. If you are lucky, you are happy. If you are unlucky, you are unhappy. However, unlike the lucky gods who want to kill Buddha for being a traitor to heaven, this new god only wants to murder Buddha for one reason, because he makes him sick. Now Zerofuku's design is quite cool. The most striking part of the design is the hole in his heart, a hole which appeared when he turned on humanity when he decided not to be happy anymore. There's also the 7 beads in his hair, which each bear the name of one of the deadly sins. He is defined by misfortune and sin. Oh, and notice how one of his toenails is white while the rest are black. This could maybe represent that as dark and miserable as he may have become, there is still light and happiness inside him, but that's just speculation. He pulls his divine weapon, the Misery Cleaver, out of his own flesh, as it is literally his hate personified. This hate is intrinsically part of him. But he wasn't always this way. Zerofuku started as a kind god, the kindest of them all. He came down to earth in order to spread happiness, but at a cost. Even when he rescued a baby bird that had fallen from a tree, he ended up falling and hurting himself in the process. But as long as the one he helped was happy, he did not care. Even if it was the mother bird that made him fall, as long as she was happy, he didn't care how bruised he became. But when he ventured into the world of the humans, what he found was poverty and sickness. And so because he didn't want the humans to be sad, he took on their pain and misfortune himself, leaving them, at least at first, happy. He wanted to spread happiness, that is what he thought his job as a god was, and as such he made that his duty, his creed. He took on the misfortune, the bad luck of the people. He thought he could make them happy by taking away the source of their misfortune, and so he did it over and over till he was left in a truly dire state. But he did not care, as no matter how much pain he was in, he could remain happy if he knew the humans were happy. In other words, he was allowing his own happiness to be dictated by others. His happiness, in other words, was reliant on others, not on himself. Yet when he returned to the village, he found the people to be sinful. They wallowed in cardinal desires. They weren't happy, they were just free of any inconveniences, of anything that might cause them the slightest discomfort. As the manga directly says, the more of their misfortunes he took in, the more they lost sight of happiness and fell into depravity without fail. And so, realising this fact, Zerofuku loses the happiness he was using to keep himself from falling apart, and he becomes rageful in the absence of such happiness, to the point his aura alone even scared off the bird he had helped before. Funny enough, the one being who actually felt thankful for what Zerofuku did, which in itself is a statement on humanity in general, that unlike the animals they can be swayed by desires, but that's not that relevant to this video. Zerofuku basically thought if he took away their bad luck, that they would be happy, that all that prevents one from being happy is bad luck, that everyone is intrinsically happy, it's just that they get made sad by misfortune, and as such, eliminate misfortune and everyone remains happy forever. But, you know, he was wrong. An absence of misfortune isn't the way to attain happiness, something showed to him by Buddha, a person who made those stricken with poverty and illness happy, but not by taking away their misfortunes, not by doing what Zerofuku did. And well, what did Zerofuku think when the parade of people approached? He thought they were more unhappy people coming to ask him to take their pain away. It was almost as if he was blaming them. And well, this explains a lot. Zerofuku wasn't asked to help those people, he did it himself of his own volition. He can't expect anything back because although in his mind it was a good deed, he did it without being asked. He did it in part for his own sake, to bring himself happiness. This being contrasted by how an old man asked Buddha for beans, and Buddha says, sure, take as many as you want. The difference here is the old man asked for something and Buddha said sure. Buddha didn't cure these people, he didn't remove their misfortunes or fix their problems. He just gave them an example and taught them the simple lesson that happiness isn't something you can give to others, it's something you gotta attain for yourself. There is no light without the dark, you can't be happy without sadness to compare it against. One devoid of sadness can never understand true happiness. Zerofuku couldn't accept this though, his worldview was fundamentally different. How could these people who looked starved and ragged, who were inflicted by the misfortune of hunger and poverty, how could they be smiling? How could they be happy? They shouldn't be happy if they are starving. If they are starving, they should be sad. If you remove the starving, they become happy. Yet Buddha here disproved all of this. Zerofuku thought he would be happy if he brought luck. He thought being a bringer of luck would make him happy. That luck equals happiness, but that's just not the case. When Buddha offered for him to come with them, to come attain enlightenment with him, it broke him. He became jealous. How could this human do what he, a god, could not? It was meant to be his job. He wanted to make the humans happy, so he'd be happy. But if he couldn't do that, then he'd curse them instead. He cursed humanity and almost unleashed divine retribution, seeking to murder the humans who, in his mind, refused him happiness. But when a mother threw herself in the way to save her child, he for a moment resisted. Because at heart, Zerofuku is not evil. As Buddha said, he's just going through puberty, and so he stopped himself by splitting himself into 7 gods. In short, when things did not go his way, he turned to anger, reflected very much in round 6. He says to Buddha it's now time for him to unleash divine punishment. But let's be real, this has nothing to do with justice, this is just a personal grudge because Buddha did what he could not. He doesn't regret anything because he blames Buddha for everything. He did nothing wrong because Buddha was the root cause of everything he did. Much like how he made his happiness reliant on the actions of others, he now placed the reason for all his misfortune onto Buddha. He isn't the cause of any of his own misfortune, it's all due to bad luck, due to stuff outside of his control, due to Buddha. When he keeps failing to land a blow, he doesn't think it's because he is too slow, he instead pities himself saying, why does this always happen to me? Why am I so misfortunate? Basically, it isn't his fault, it's the universe out to get him, and every time he takes damage when things don't go his way, he yells out about how miserable he is, because in his mind, to be unlucky, for things not to go your way, that is the definition of despair. Of course, something contradicted by the people he saw following Buddha, starving people with no money to their names, people who are unlucky, who have not had things go their way, people who despite all that were still happy and smiling. As the match continues, Zerofuku's misery cleaver grows larger and larger, being fueled by misfortune. Not just Zerofuku's, but by all the misfortune around, possibly a play on Zerofuku's belief that misfortune is all external. Even his power in this fight is swayed by forces outside of his control. When Zerofuku finally asks why no one will look at him, Buddha replies simply that one is truly one's own master, that he just has to love himself. And then follows up by saying, he likes Zerofuku, something which gets through to Zerofuku. He realises that he didn't just want to make people happy, no, he wanted to be loved. That's why he helped people, why he took on their misfortune. It was just because he wanted to be loved by them. He came to realise what we already knew, but was so unknown to him. He was jealous of Buddha. He wanted to be like him, to be loved by others like him. This understanding makes him drop his weapon, as it's a weapon born from his misery, but without any misery left, it's completely useless. Instead, he must now rely on his own power, not a power brought on by the misery of others, just his own raw power, one born from no one but himself. And so he has no choice but to fight bare-fisted, the two fighting because that is what they want to do. And the moment he fights like this, the crowd starts to cheer for him, he starts to feel loved. With Zerofuku even saying he is at the peak of happiness. This is all he wanted. To just be happy, being loved by someone and loving them back, an exchange with everything laid bare. He's knocked down, but even as he loses, he smiles, as he is happy, and as a result his form returns to how it originally was, before it became corrupted by despair and misery, and he decides that he will go back to trying to help humanity, Why? Because that is what he wants to do. Like Buddha, he will move for not others, but for himself. And unlike before, he will do it while loving himself. He will take after Buddha and attain happiness all on his own. Or so he should have. Except for one final stroke of bad luck. Hajun, the demon god of the 6th heaven. Yes, we will be discussing Hajun in this video too, because frankly that bastard doesn't deserve his own video. Now Hajun was a great and mighty entity from the ancient past, one unknown even to the gods. He destroyed half of Helheim and then vanished, with his remains later being collected by Beelzebub and implanted in Zerofuku so that one day he could reincarnate, which is what he does in round 6. Now Hajun, like Zerofuku, also personifies luck. However, whereas Zerofuku was unlucky and drowned in misfortune because of it, Hajun was blessed with good luck, with a host out of pure luck and great power out of again luck. Luck, as pressed earlier in this fight, does not discriminate. It comes to all, be it good or bad, and it is true strength to find happiness despite that. Hajun, by being so blessed yet being so evil, hammers home the reality that luck has no bias, that even the most heinous of people can be blessed. Hajun took pleasure in the pain he caused. He wanted to make Buddha suffer. Unlike Zerofuku, who wanted to take misfortune away from others, Hajun wanted to inflict it onto others. To make others suffer is what brought Hajun happiness, the complete opposite of Zerofuku. Hajun for a while overwhelmed Buddha because his heart was so dark that Buddha could not read his soul. He forced Buddha to act with emotion and hence in spite of his enlightened ways. He sought to drag Buddha down from his prestige and make him suffer like any old man. Hajun raved about his power, about how he was blessed with immense strength, and so in his mind, he was rightfully above Buddha, and even to his last breath, he spouted such dribble. He never looked in himself for happiness at all, he just wanted others to fear him as the strongest. He wanted the validation of others, exactly like Zerofuku had. The only difference is that Zerofuku wanted love, and in the end, that is what he got. Whereas Buddha in the end did not fear Hajun, and as such he could never give Hajun what he wanted. Buddha defeats Hajun through Volond. He connects with Zerofuku. And remember, Volond occurs when two hearts are made one, and as such, the fact that this is even possible shows that Zerofuku did change. They connected not through luck, but due to their shared love for one another and the effort Zerofuku put in to change. Luck had nothing to do with it. Once again, it was through their own efforts of their hearts melding. Before dispatching Hajun, Buddha tells him that to confront one's own weakness, you must fight back against your inexperience. It takes puberty. But since Hajun doesn't have that, he is weak. He is just a child. Unlike Zerofuku, who has faced his inexperience and grown, unlike Hajun, Zerofuku matured. And then after Hajun's death, when Zerofuku's soul vanishes, we see that he is happy. He is smiling. But even more symbolic is how we also see the 7 lucky gods too, as he has made peace with himself, with every aspect of himself. Even if they came from a moment of despair, of bad luck, he still accepts they were him. And that even if they came from despair, that didn't make them limited to misery. I mean, as Brunhild says, Buddha and Zerofuku's Volond took in not misery, but compassion. At the end of the day, he had the worst luck, being the host for a terrible demon against his will. But despite that, despite the most unfortunate of situations bestowing him, one that even took his life, he still managed to be happy in the end. As that luck didn't define him, nor how he felt. He was happy. The situation couldn't move his heart anymore. No matter how dreadful, the only thing that could was himself, as he now loves himself. And as the match ends, we see not just Buddha, but all of humanity loved Zerofuku too. A perfect contrast to Hajun, who died in denial, with nobody acknowledging him. His good luck ran out, the situation no longer favoured him, but he couldn't look inside himself for help, and so could only suffer, swept along by his luck. There was no happiness inside him, that's why Buddha's precognition failed. Hajun just could not rely on himself to win, nor to be happy, and so when luck changed and the situation favoured not him but Buddha, he couldn't win, nor could he even be happy in the end. The overall message of this fight being that you shouldn't let your luck or your situation define you, that you can find happiness no matter what, you just have to love yourself. And that's why even if the fandom doesn't love Zerofuku, it's fine, because he loves himself. And well, I do too. Honestly, the most underrated character in the series for me, like genuinely, how do people not love this guy? He's such a well written and likeable character. It's beyond me. but maybe that's once again just a stroke of bad luck coming to our poor little god of fortune. And if you want to support this channel even further, then perhaps pledge to my Patreon, or consider becoming a channel member, so you can get your name at the end of the video like Hikari Desu, Rinjak9696, Mr. Sputum, and Matthias Rowett. So with all that said and done, I have been SephTheSin, the deadly sin of geek, and I'm signing out. Stay safe, everyone.